table. It's a really tight race for survival when it comes to the bottom half of the table. But for City Stars, the threat of relegation is very real.
There's no denying that Nairobi City Stars are a team in turmoil. This is a club that has performed the great escape from relegation in each of the past 2 seasons. A late season push saw them finish 13th in 2012, just 5 points out of the relegation red. In 2013, their margin for survival fell to just 3 points. This was due in part to the terrible run of form of both Kakamega Homeboys and Karachuri Sport. In 2014, Nairobi City Stars find themselves on the fringes of relegation once again. 14th on the log with just 17 points from 17 fixtures. Coach Tim Bryett has been in charge for 10 games. However, out of a possible 30 points, City Stars have managed to collect just 7 under his watch. Certainly not good enough in the eyes of coach.
I think when you look at the stats like that, you have to put it into perspective as well, in terms of where the club is and where it's been in the last few years. Last season this club finished 14th, just above relegation. The season before that 13th, and the season before that 14th. So it's always been a club which has just avoided relegation. I think this season the main tasks are to build a team to secure its place in the Premiership. There's always room for improvement, and I think in the second half of the season we're definitely looking at picking up more points and challenging the teams which we drew against last time in the first half, and picking up wins this time. But it's going to be a long process because of this club is in a position where it's always avoided relegation, and I think it's important now that we develop the team and the club as a whole to be a secure team in the Premiership and finish in the top 10 and build from there.
Up next for City Stars, an away fixture against Ulinzi Stars. Ulinzi are coming off a 6-0 thrashing of Mumbi Nacional at the weekend in the GoTV Shield. While other clubs are strengthening their prospects during the mid-season transfer window, City Stars were desperately trying to create finances. The club from Kalawari released 5 key players on a free transfer as they grappled with financial difficulties. Among those were the influential Jimmy Bagaye, Moses Otieno, George Midenyo, Victor Molaba and Herbert Anunga.
We've lost a couple of good players in the transfer window, which makes things challenging, but we've also signed some really quality players, technical players who are good with both feet, good decision making on the ball. So I think they'll make an impact, and they already have made an impact in training and in the games they featured as well. So we're looking at the same. I think having technical players and players who can play football is important, but they also need to have a good tactical understanding of the game as well. And I feel like we have that with the players which we signed, and we're looking at them making an impact with the current players as well, because we also have players in the team who have a lot of experience, like Justice and Dennis Okoff and those sort of players. So we need to, we need those players as well to use their experience. They've been in these sort of positions before, and we need them to use their experience to help us pull out this position.
For Bryett and City Stars, there is the ultimate goal, and that is to become a force in Kenya's top flight. But the more immediate goal is to ensure that they're still here for the 2015 season.
So I think in terms of this season and where we're aiming at and looking at the teams we've got, I think we want to climb up and try and finish around 10th. I think we have to be realistic in terms of where we come from and where we've got to go. So 10 would be a good challenge. It's a tough challenge because of this. Now teams with their players and coaches are established and settled into the season, but I think it's an achievable goal, and I think it's a realistic goal as well, and that's the main thing in terms of setting goals which are realistic and achievable, because it builds confidence within the players, and it gives the players something to work towards which they know they can achieve. Once we hit that position, then we evaluate it and we look at the games we have left and what we think we can get from those games to build for next season as well.
I like what he said right there, Coach Bryett. Look at the games that are coming up and see what you can get from those games. I'll turn my attention to the gentlemen in studio. All 3 of you, I'm going to quickly run through those matches because they are up next against Ulinzi Stars, if I'm not wrong. Then they find KCB, who will be waiting for them. Gentlemen, here's your list. Moroni Youth, Sony Sugar, Gor Mahia Tusker, Sofapaka, Bandari, Thika United, Western Steamer, before you meet Mathare United, last game of the season against fellow strugglers.
one of the things, big things which they're having, because they're having a problem with defending, because they're not scoring goals and they're not defending, and they lost some 2 or 3 players who are key players on their squad. Again, if you look at them playing Gormaya, they are trying to win the Champions League. Sofapaka is there too. So for them, they're having a very tough fixture, which we can say. But again, the way I said, it's a matter of building the team for the next season, hopefully maybe in the first division, or staying there, but I don't see them remaining in the Premier League.
Yeah, it will hinge on the performance of Nakuru All-Stars. We've seen how All-Stars has been performing in Nakuru. At least they've somehow stabilized. But now, go back to the squad of Nairobi City Stars. I watched them against AFC Leopards yesterday, and one of their main men is Kevin Oliech. And we all know how Oliech has not been playing well. He's a guy who's just coming back into this game. Look at the other player, Levi Mwaka, who is training with the team. If you look at him, you know that he doesn't have much fitness. Playing those guys against a team like Ulinzi Stars, you'll be asking too much of that team.
You must remember that these players, in the position they are again, it takes a lot from a player, because they are good players. But if you look at the log where they are, they've survived. This is the 3rd time for them. You know, psychologically, again, in their head, they feel like there's something which is going on.
They need to survive. It's now up to Bryett to come up with the tactics that can make him survive. The loss of a player like Mark Makwata, the loss of a player like Dennis Nganga, the loss of a player like Jim Bagea, because those are the players who've been carrying this team in the past seasons. So this time round, the fact that they are depending on players who are trying to make a comeback into their professional lives, their football lives, then it makes it very difficult.
You've got to understand also that City Stars is doing this with virtually no budget. I think other than the money they get from the SuperSport KPL deal, their last significant influx, I'm not even sure if this money ever came in, was the money from the Victor Nyama transfer. And this paints a cautionary tale. And it's a bit of a sad story to clubs in the Kenyan Premier League, because unfortunately, clubs in the Kenyan Premier League are not being sponsored the way they should. Now, whose fault is it? Is it the clubs? No, because you can't say Peter Jabuya runs the club badly. You know, Nairobi City Stars would be the perfect example of a neighborhood club that a sponsor or sponsors should be attracted to. And yet somehow we keep on seeing this not happening. If Nairobi City Stars had a sponsor, it would be a completely different outfit from what they have. They're doing so much. So Toscan, it's Nairobi City Stars. Not everything has to circumlocute to AFC Leopards. The bottom line is, but they don't have the management. Now City Stars has the management, but they don't have the they don't have the money, and because they don't have the money, they can't sign the players. There's a sudden schism in terms of the abilities of various teams in the Kenya Premier League to fund their Kenya Premier League activities. And I think as we go into the future, maybe as we look at maybe the new TV deal that City Stars will get, but more importantly, commercial sponsors, they should actually take a look at this and say, look, this is a nice small club that can give us Africa-wide appeal, and let's sort them out.
All right, so there we go. So up next for Nakuru All-Stars, of course, as you've seen right there live on your World of Champions, it is Muhoroni, and then they'll move on to face Tusker. So they need to perform very well if they are to play any catch-up game against City Stars. As for City Stars, well, only time will tell whether or not they can pull another survival surprise for us in the Kenya Premier League. Right now, though, we take a quick break. When we do come back, we turn our attention to Adela Mrush, and in studio we will have the VP of FKF, Robert Assemble, to shed some light on this topic.